Recording in progress. Welcome to episode one of the Rise Up Odyssey podcast. I'm your host, Danny, with my co host, Haley. And today we have a lot to talk about, it seems like. Been a long week, hasn't
Yep. We'll see how talkative we feel at this point.
it? Well, we did make the commitment, so we are here today at what is it? Oh, it's exactly 4:20. So on a
Hmm.
Sunday evening, see how good our brains
Yes.
are flowing.
Yeah, the internet's been against us, other factors today, but here we are.
Yes, here we are.
We are.
Well, I guess let's start with our new favorite segment that we introduced last week, Fear Factor, right? Talk a little bit about failure because we had a whole episode about the fear of failure and all that, right?
Yeah, just like putting ourselves out there. I don't know if it's our favorite segment to talk about this stuff, but let's go ahead. I guess the thing we were going to talk about is how we did start the challenge, the Rise Up Challenge. We onboarded someone, and after that was all said and done, they had some second thoughts and decided it possibly wasn't a great fit for them. I think that really threw us off. We were kind of like what did we do? And we started blaming ourselves. And I don't know. Do you think we could have done something differently?
I mean, maybe we could have been a little bit more professional. I mean, this was a personal relationship, so maybe differentiated that a little bit better, but I don't know.
Yeah, and that's kind of what we've wrapped our heads around. Is I'm not sure we could have done anything much different, to be honest. Working with people for I don't know 10, 12 years, a while, having clients, etc. in the fitness world with coaching. People are just unpredictable, and that's okay. That's something that you and I are going to have to get more comfortable with. The fact that if someone does say yes, we get them into the program, and then they're like, "Hey, maybe this isn't actually a great fit for me." We can't take it personally every time.
No. Maybe the first, no, I'm just kidding. No, we can't take it personally. Uh, Yeah, I don't think that we could have done anything different. Maybe we could have had a little bit more expectations laid out front because, I mean, to be honest, we had no idea what we were really putting together with the challenge at first. So maybe if we had asked them, and that's probably a poor job on my part for discovery, because discovery is the key to sales, as we all know, is saw what those expectations may have been. Maybe there was something that we didn't meet that we should have been meeting, right?
Yeah, but like we've talked about the past couple episodes, the act now and not how type of thing, because most people don't even get started. I think I think we were just focused on that because we've held back for so long, and yeah, maybe that got in the way. The communication wasn't where it should have been, or clear expectations. But in the end, I think you and I have learned a few lessons from that, and we'll do a better job moving forward. Make sure we're clear on the expectations, what's going to happen, and make them understand this is a learning experience for everyone involved.
Yep, I would agree with that. Well, and I mean, we have a little bit of good news. I know we didn't really talk about it, but you did get somebody else onboarded to the challenge, so we can hopefully help them out and,
We did.
help impact
Mhm.
their lives. So that's pretty cool, right?
Yes, they seemed excited. I got them onboarded. They even wanted a workout program to go hand in hand with it. So they're ready to jump back on board and start focusing on their health and well-being again, and all of that. So yeah, that was a great win this week. Absolutely.
Look at that. See? We turned it around. That's the whole point of what we're trying to do here is to share all the failures, a little bit of success too, whenever we see it. So you guys know that it's real,
Yeah.
we're putting ourselves out there and trying to make this a thing and help people out. It's the whole goal, right?
Right. Yeah. Kind of like what they say: fail first, success later. Second,
Yeah.
first. I don't know. Is that what it is?
I think it's fail first or be ready to fail first or
And then
yeah,
success comes after that. Without some failure, you won't succeed.
try and try again. But I mean, yeah, live and learn on a lighter note.
We're just gonna keep the episode going right now with just random quotes about that.
Yeah. That's going to be the rest of
Oh,
the show is just talking about failure. No, but I
start
actually ended up,
googling
huh?
quotes and just Google quotes, and we'll just keep saying them over and over.
Yeah, just keep putting them in there, see what happens.
Yeah.
Uh, but no, I finally finished Scarcity Brain. It took me a lot longer than it took you for sure. But yeah, 200 and what was it, 86 pages or so. I even read a little bit of the acknowledgments. That was good.
Yeah, I think it's roughly 300 pages, but it's a very good book, right?
Yeah, I very much enjoyed it.
I'd recommend it to people because we live in like an abundant world, and it kind of tries to tell you to knock it off if you're getting consumed in the what the title is, the scarcity loop, right? So, did you want to share a little bit about what you took away from the book?
I mean, yeah, that's what we put in here. So, no, I think there was a couple of really good things about the book. I mean, there was a ton of good things about the book.
Mhm.
But I would say that, the main thing for me was finding out the scarcity loop is real. And it's the first step of getting control of your cravings. So we tend to have a lot of cravings for different things. Food being a big one for a lot of people, sugar. I realize that maybe I have a little bit of a chocolate and sugar problem because I've taken away all the other bad habits. So I've learned that now my body it craves what it knows it can get. So it doesn't crave alcohol anymore because it can't get that. It doesn't crave coffee anymore because it can't get that. But it will absolutely crave sugar and Reese's specifically. Um, but constant seeking is also a good example of the scarcity loop. Like when we're getting a ton of those cravings, when we're looking around for things. And I think the best one, and I know you and I have talked about happiness quite a bit as well in and off of this podcast, but according to Michael, happiness comes from letting go of the consumerism, really, and living a more balanced life and looking at something that's bigger than yourself to lean on, whether that be faith, God, the universe, what karma, whatever you call it. I really like his quote in Scarcity Brain when he talks about God, and he's like, God's just the easiest word because I'm too lazy to figure something else out. I'm definitely paraphrasing that. It's a lot better in the book, but uh, I definitely agree with that. It was a good quote.
Yeah, I think that's great. See, I read that a few weeks ago now.
Yeah.
So, it's coming back to me slowly here. Because I've started a new book called Mind Shift, but I think we're gonna save that for maybe next week. As far as scarcity brain, yeah, it exactly what you're saying. And we've like debated, is happiness real? And you and I have gone back and forth on that. But in the book he very much puts it as contentment, as we have both agreed upon is happiness. And we get sucked into this trap, this loop, this freaking scarcity loop, and we can't get out unless we become aware. So, did you want to share a little bit about what the scarcity loop specifically means, or what it is in his world?
Yeah. I would say, I love definitions, and the cut defines the scarcity loop as being a pattern that leads humans and many other animals to repeat excessive behaviors that can harm us in the long run. I found a lot of the habits that I've had previously that I've started to walk away from were very much scarcity loop influenced. So that was fun to realize that you were being controlled by by the machines, basically. Like slot machines was a good example of that, and consumerism, collecting a ton of stuff. Just in case I need something, I'll buy it. Just in case I need a studio light set, I'll buy one that I'll never use.
Okay, following this
Yeah.
microphone. Okay. Mhm.
The microphone I've been using quite a bit, I think that was a good
Now,
purchase. Now, yeah, it just took 2 years to make any use of it.
in the slot machines, actually, he had a whole entire segment, chapter in the book about gambling slot machines, how he talked to people about them and how they suck us in and keep us like with small wins. So you might win what, 5 cents, and then you
Hmm.
win $5, and you keep playing that game. So it keeps satisfying that win, 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 win. But in the long run, you lose more than you even put into the dang machine to begin with.
Yep.
Crazy what they do to us.
I
Collecting
think it was the
stuff,
first
uh,
chapter.
it was like first or second, because I think he first went on his trip. Was it
To
Iraq?
Iraq. Yes.
Yes.
That was
Yes.
the
And he was
intro.
talking
Yeah.
about the drugs, and yeah. I think slot machines was like chapter 2 or 3-ish. But yeah, I thought it was
Yeah.
a pretty like opened my eyes a little bit more. I knew slot machines kind of how they worked and everything, but with how he put it into words and stuff, I'm kind of like, oh, I get it now. What about collecting stuff? How would you say that fits into the that same loop pattern of a win, or it keeps you in a loop, I guess?
I think we think of it as if the more stuff we have, that we'll be happier. And I've noticed the less stuff I have, the happier I am. I mean, moving is a pain, but
Hmm.
every time I moved, I've gotten rid of a lot of my stuff, and now I have like a shell of what I first, moved here with. Um, my desk I think is still in your garage. So a lot of that stuff that I got rid of completely, I think I've been happier with. But now since I've been more stable in this apartment, I've been collecting stuff again and just random stuff I like on Amazon or I think I'll use someday. I've been buying that. And then it just sits and then you look at it and it's just like, okay, I need to get rid of this. Or a monitor box, right? Like this monitor's box I'm keeping because I'm like, well, I don't know if I move, maybe I'll need it instead of just, tossing the box because you don't need a box. But it's just sitting there because, oh, just in case I need it.
Yeah, so it's like having more of a minimalist approach, or giving things away or purging things out, so you just don't get attached to materialistic things for
Yes.
satisfaction or happiness.
Yeah. That's a good way of
Makes sense.
summarizing.
Yeah, and you talked about the food aspect. I think I've had a little bit of an unhealthy relationship with food as well from childhood, where, back in the day, the grandparents probably didn't have an abundance of food during war times and depression or all that stuff. So that cycle started where you eat everything on your plate at the farm. And then in school, we're like freaking herded like cattle through that lunch line. And we have minimal time to eat depending on what grade we're in, etc. So I feel like I still struggle with rushing through my food. A meal sits down and I'm like, all right, I'm hungry, let's go go go, instead of trying to enjoy it more. And you eat everything on your plate, so I have to be very conscious of how much do I put on my plate, because that is so programmed in me from my childhood and through previous experiences. So I think being more aware of what we're doing in the world can kind of help us get out of that scarcity loop.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think that's a great point. I mean, for me, I had the opposite problem. I didn't eat enough growing up. So my parents would kind of force feed me or try to force feed me, but I would just say, oh, I was a picky eater. But no, I just didn't want to eat. But now it's the opposite problem where I I get seconds, which is interesting because I think my metabolism is coming back from all the exercise and all the activity.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah,
that's
so like
probably
we're
why the cravings are hitting.
right, and you have to define when it's healthy and when it's unhealthy, and how you can kind of bridge that gap and get rid of the bad habit and bring in a new one, and how to support that. So
Yeah.
yeah, overall, I thought it was a great book and it went through many different things that we've touched on, and there's even more in there than what we chatted about.
Oh yeah, 100%. There's so much. It's probably one of those books you read twice or three times to, get to the point where you understand it fully.
Yeah, and I highly recommend doing that in different moments in your life too. Not back to back. I would wait a bit and then kind of revisit it, see where you're at in life, and take more in. I've
Yeah,
done that
I
with
would agree.
Atomic Habits. Hmm.
Yeah, there's a couple books that I want to revisit now, at this age, and then probably revisit again a couple years down the road. Um,
Right.
Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill is a good example of that. I think I've listened to that book probably three or four times in a row throughout my life. And each
Mhm.
time I listen to it, the better it is. So that's a good example of that. Yeah. All right. So
Cool.
now that we covered scarcity brain, let's kind of shift our focus a little bit here. Talk about our favorite concept. So that's slowly becoming our favorite concept here. Self first.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Self
All,
first.
all about stepping up, being the polar opposite of selfishness, being a way
Mhm.
of life that we've started to prescribe to everyone else, since it's a lot easier to take care of other people when your cup is already full. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree for once. Personally, I found finding a little bit of time for myself each day, even if it's 10 minutes, it's essential to kind of get my head on straight and be able to be there for people throughout the day, especially with my line of work that is very people focused. If I don't have that time, things just kind of slip away from me, and I can definitely get in my own headspace. So it helps with self-awareness, and that's where everything starts in order to learn and grow and be aware of who you are so you can serve other people and be there for them.
Yeah, I think self-awareness is like one of the most important things. I think everything changes in your life once you actually become aware that there's a problem. Otherwise, you just keep letting things happen and happen and happen.
Yeah, and that ties right back into scarcity loop, and I think that's why we resonated so well with the book, is because if you don't become aware of what you're doing, you're not going to change the loop itself, the bad habits, the cravings, the cues, all of that goes into what you're doing day to day. You just keep
Yeah.
doing and doing and doing and doing, and eventually catches up to you in one way or another.
Yeah. Either get too exhausted to deal with anybody and disassociate like I do, or you, you find another way to
Avoidance.
cope. Avoidance.
Yeah,
Exactly.
avoidance, vices, all the things we talked about in our previous episodes that we'll probably dive into even here further more and more. Because that's just human nature. You know, that's what's natural to humans is feelings, emotions, and we try not to lead our lives in that, but they do get a hold of us, and we have to know how to process and be more aware.
I agree. I think the hardest part is just taking care of yourself with the whole self first concept.
Well, yeah, there's so many distractions. We're what a consumer driven world. There's so much abundance that we get wrapped up in other people's needs or other people's perception of us. So what happens is we tend to lose our sense of self. It's almost like learning to parent yourself is a skill we're never really taught, or it's never talked about, because you basically have to become a parent for you, an advocate for you. And a lot of times we don't have those transition times from being a young adult into an adult. We just get into relationships, we get married, we have children, we get a house, those things that we have been told are what we're supposed to do kind of happen, and we then are like, whoa, well, how do I even take care of me? How do I be an independent person? What
Yeah,
do you like? What's your thoughts on that, I guess?
I think one of Jordan Peterson's greatest quotes, and one of his rules for life in there was take care of yourself like you're taking care of somebody you care for. I think that's powerful here. And it's that, hey, we need to learn how to take care of ourselves. Parent ourselves, I think, is a good way of describing that because that's what you're doing. You have to basically say, oh, hey, no cookies after 10 p.m. Hey, no snacking throughout the day that's unhealthy. Yeah, as you guys can tell, I'm having a big sugar issue here. But, but
Or
yeah,
my example from today would be I was in a little bit of a funk earlier, in a mood as we'd call it for me, so I put myself in a timeout, and it was great. you
I think
you
that's
know
a
what
good
I'm
knack.
saying? Like, yeah, I just needed to shut off my brain for a little bit. It was getting a little bit ahead of me. I was feeling a certain way, and I was like, hey, I'm gonna just go let it sleep, let it go, let it go. But yeah, so put yourself in timeout. Tell yourself no cookies after a certain time. No candy for breakfast. Just stuff that parents always told us, and now we're like, okay, we got to tell ourselves not to do that, but you have free will and choice, right?
That's the biggest problem. Like me, TV, like, oh, hey, no TV after 9, no TV after 10. That's another one because you're like, okay, well, I need to sleep at a certain time. It takes me about an hour when I turn the TV off to like shower, pray, go to sleep, like, have enough time to do all that. And if you don't, and if you're in the middle of a really good episode of, I don't know, Walker, Texas Ranger, then it might be like 10:30 and you're like, dang, I should have turned that off a while ago. Now I'm not going to sleep till like midnight. And then the whole next day gets messed up. And then it becomes a pattern and what we love to call a cycle. And it's about if you have the awareness and you're like, okay, well, yesterday I did that. That was bad behavior. I need to change that. Do the right thing today and go from there.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think there's, a couple other additional components to self first. In my opinion, being honest, living authentically with who you are, where you want to go, who you want to be, that kind of thing. Um, I would say that honesty was a very, I think we had a whole episode about honesty being the best policy. They all kind of blend together,
Mhm.
but that was like a big thing for me to figure out how to do all the time is be honest. And I still have like moments of consciousness where I'm like, oh no, that was a lie. I shouldn't have said that. What actually happened is, and then you have to turn it around and say, oh, you know, I messed up there. So I think that's a big one. What are your thoughts? Don't have any? Okay. Well, while Haley's turning her mic back on, uh,
Okay, I don't.
there we go.
Sorry. This time keeps blowing up. I should probably just turn my phone off, and then it disconnects my AirPods. And
Like right now.
Just okay.
That's
Are we good
okay.
now?
Yes.
I told you the world's against us today, so here we are. We'll survive. One way or another, the internet goes out. People are wanting our attention right now. This is why we're putting ourselves first in this episode. See this? How it works? It's all like full circle here. Let me just put this on airplane mode, like it maybe should for now on. Okay, we should be good now.
Okay, good.
Welcome back. Intermission's done.
Did you hear
uh,
what I said about being honest?
I yes, I caught most of the honesty and how
Okay.
you're still trying to, figure that out time to time. And with the self first approach, I would also say like you and I are very big now on like integrity and
Yes.
humility or being humble, generous, and trying to overall just be good people. That's our mission here is to continually be who we are authentically and share that message with others in hopes that they can kind of figure themselves out as well as we continue to figure out our life and where we're meant to be, all of that stuff. So self first, I think, really inside of us explained the message we wanted to give. We tend to take care of others or disassociate from ourselves, and really, you need to face it, face what's going on inside of you, and that's the only way you're going to make it out and find contentment and happiness in life, fulfillment, purpose, all the stuff we have talked about a few times here and there.
Yeah, for sure. I would say that keep learning is also a big one, big part of self first, constantly improving our knowledge base, something that's, goes back to that integrity and who we want to become. I think that one's also pretty
Mhm.
big. Creating boundaries. It's okay to say
Oh
no
yeah,
sometimes. That's a big one.
it is.
You don't want to be
And
people pleasing.
right, and now that you brought that up, that's a really good point. Creating boundaries. So that's what you and I also had to learn from our fear factor today of that failure. That person told us no, they created a boundary, and that's something that we have to be okay on the reciprocating end of things. We create boundaries, we need to respect other people's boundaries, even if we don't always understand.
Or agree with. Right. I think understand's a better word, but or agree with.
Yeah. Hmm. But yeah,
Staying in the
I
moment.
and then staying in the present moment. That's very important as well. In the moment.
Yes. I don't think you heard me say that because it said my internet connection was unstable. So they might be messing with us again.
Oh, see,
But
it is.
uh but yeah, staying in the moment, enjoying the now. Overthinking and anxiety is always going to come up. That's just is what it is in life, especially in our modern era. And I
Mhm.
think I don't know which author said this. I feel like so many have at this point that depression is worrying about the past and anxiety is worrying about the future. And all we have is right now because the past is just a bunch of things that's in our head because we don't even know if that happened because we can't see it anymore. And the future is a bunch of plans that we have for a time we don't even know will come. So all we have is right now.
Yeah, I mean that's valid. I even reflecting on some of the times in my life, teenage, childhood, I can re well, I don't know, what would you say? I can think of things, but it doesn't always make sense, or I don't remember details of it. So that's the thing. Do you think we just carry feelings through it instead of always memories and experiences from them?
I don't know.
Or
I think that could be a
yeah,
whole show in of itself. I mean, for me, briefly, like I I remember certain memories very, very vividly. I've always been blessed to have a good memory, for better or for worse. So I can feel something just like it happened. As far back as, almost my first memory, I think, was when I was 2.5, was seeing my grandpa. So that's probably my earliest memory, and I can still feel that memory of, like, playing horsey with him and being on his lap and laughing and going to the store with him and buying shoes and stuff like that, which no 2-year-old remembers, but I remember that, which is very weird.
yeah, it's like, do you remember that, or did someone tell you that story? Or, like things that we recall, it's always like, is that really a memory of ours, or we saw a homemade movie, or a parent told us about the story? And so then we take our experiences and we kind of build that vision in that moment in time.
I think it's a combination too. I think it could be
Hmm.
we remember it and then we see like a video from it, right?
Right.
This was a long time ago. This was in the 90s. So there's a picture, but that's about it. Um, but
There's home movies then, but okay.
there was home
VHSs
movies.
were
I
a
don't think
thing.
we had the money at
Okay.
that point, but yes, yes, there was home. This was
Fair.
Pakistan in the 90s. There weren't any video cameras, and you didn't want to bring the one you
Oh,
had in the States to a third world country or developing nation, whatever you want to
oh,
call it.
you may have missed that little detail of that it was not in the United States. Thank you.
No, yeah, it was in Karachi.
Oh,
Uh,
okay, okay.
yes, there were home movies. My dad had a Panasonic camera in Chicago. Yes, 100%.
Like the
But
giant brick that you look through.
yes,
Oh,
yes.
Google it if you don't know.
It recorded straight to VHS too back then. It was kind of a spectacle. And then there was
Mhm.
like a mini cassette. You'd have to put it inside the big VHS and then put the thing in there. Remember that? Yeah. But
I
yes, so
think so.
I feel like I'm dating myself, but anyway, that was a thing that I remember too. Again, it's a memory, right? Like, did that happen, or is that just something in my brain of a mini cassette going into a cassette? So, like, after this episode, I'm gonna
Right.
Google it to see if I was right.
Yeah, like like the things we perceive, are they really true from the past, or is it things we kind of put bits and pieces together of different experiences and emotions and feelings, and then we rebuild them in in present tense from the past? And so it's the mind is a very complex thing, and it plays a lot of tricks on you, as we've noticed and had to talk through a lot of these things, just like this random conversation right now about, are our memories really true memories, or are they bits and pieces of things other people have told you, things you've seen on video, and just taking feelings you've had with similar situations or experiences that you can recall?
Yeah. Then how do you
Mind
recall
blown.
those? You know, it's like a whole Inception thing. How do you even recall that? Like memories that you do recall, are those
Yeah,
true or not?
there are bits and pieces, but a lot of the years of my parents splitting and things are kind of mix and mash and hodgepodge, and I don't remember a lot of the details. It's crazy.
I think, isn't there also a trauma response? Like your brain blacks out from every like traumatic experience I have. A lot of it's just black in my head. I don't remember it. And I think that's probably the
Yeah.
body trying to protect itself.
Yeah, like the book The Body Keeps Score. I read
Mhm.
that a while back. I rushed through it a little bit because I was on 75 hard and I was trying to get those 10 pages in. But I definitely should visit that when I'm ready. But it's a pretty intense book for sure
It's
about
one I've been
trauma
avoiding.
and Yeah, it was a lot. So make sure you're ready for that adventure if you are going to dive into it.
Yeah, maybe one of these days. Maybe after we settle for the next couple months or so.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
this summer would be a great time to do that to yourself.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
gonna bring up some stuff or things that you're like we're talking about it. Is it even true, or am I just getting into this book and it's creating stories for me? You definitely start to think about the past and a lot of things in life. But yeah, so self first, huh?
yeah, self first, going back and kind of wrapping up this topic here, because we
Yeah.
got very distracted and it might be a good episode for next week. Uh, that was just completely unscripted, so good on us. But yeah, I think that self first is one of the most important concepts that we have in our heads right now and that we want to share with the world because it's helped us quite a bit and we want to make an impact on others with that. Um,
We'll think of it this way, Danny. What if we don't have ourselves? What do we have?
Nothing.
Okay, just checking. Yeah,
Yeah.
without us, there would be no story of us, and so we need to keep writing that story and pay attention to the story from our perspective and not always everyone else's. Tell your story as you.
I think that's a great way of summarizing
You're welcome.
that.
You know, I'm
Wow.
sad because we're running out of time here, and I wanted to have this
Oh,
whole debate about Costco hot dogs and if Sam's Club's better, but maybe we'll save that for next week.
is that what you want to do? You want to save that for next week? I
I
think
don't
we
know. Do we
probably
have
should.
I think so. I have a feeling that's gonna be a long soapbox between you and I, or debate. I would say I'm a
Yes.
Sam's Club and you're a Costco, and it's just gonna go downhill from there.
I've always been a Costco guy. I'll give my two reasons why Costco is always better than Sam's, and
Here we
then
go.
you give me your two reasons, and that's how we'll close out the episode. How's that?
Oh, fine. I guess we'll keep it short and simple.
I'd say the things I love about Costco are I can get whatever I need that's very niche products that Costco has that Sam's does not. A good example of that would be organic Aussie Bites. I know how you feel about the whole organic thing, but organic Aussie Bites, organic eggs, and I feel like there's a difference. This is also getting a little off track, but when you put organic eggs in the air fryer versus regular ones, the organic ones peel easier. I don't know. Seems like a conspiracy to me. So, and I mean the
Um,
$1.50 hot dog. Can't beat that. That's three things. But yeah.
yeah, I thought we were going to, but here we are. So, just in comments to that, I would say marketing scheme might be the organic, so have fun paying extra money for that. Now on to Sam's Club. Sam's Club, the reason why I enjoy it more than Costco would be the fact that I can get on my lovely app and I can put all the things I want in my cart, and I can have my car pull up in a spot, and the app I go, yes, I'm in spot 2. And then they come out, I push the button to open the back of my car, they put the stuff in, very kind of them. I push the button and it closes, and then I pull out of the spot and go home. I do not have to step foot in that place if I don't want to because it's always a zoo. So I think that one reason alone is two reasons. But if I had to choose another one, if I have to go into that place, I can scan and go. I get that lovely app out again. I scan the barcodes. When I am ready to leave, I close out on the app. I let them scan the receipt on my phone, and voila, no lines, less people time.
Yeah, I guess. I
Soapbox done.
guess. I'll just finish with this. There's a reason I renewed my Costco membership and I didn't renew my Sam's membership. That's it. That's all I got.
Yeah, that was a terrible ending. Good job.
Well, since we have less than a minute remaining,
Oh, I
this has
got
been the. Oh, you want to end it? Go for
Costco is overrated. That is all.
it.
Like,
Okay.
just saying. Okay, you can close up now. Bye.
All right. Well, this has been episode 1 of the Rise Up Odyssey podcast. Both of us very passionate about wholesale retailers. I'm your host, Danny, with my co host, Haley, signing
And
off.
self
Have a good
first.
night. Yes,
Oh my
self
gosh.
first.